Hello. Welcome to day 6. It is Tuesday, the 10th of November in 2020, the year that's ruined everybody's lives. I'll be honest, I didn't think I was going to make it past day 2 because I have this thing where I'm terrible at commitments. Like, I know I plan to do it. I plan to do a live stream every single day, but there was no guarantees that I was going to be able to actually keep it going. But I'm actually proud of myself. I've gotten to day 6 so far. The aim is to get to day 28. And yeah, so we'll see how it goes. It is difficult, mainly because the numbers aren't what everyone imagined. You know, when people start streaming or start YouTube, they think, oh yeah, I'm just going to get thousands straight away, or even hundreds. Like, I'm going to get views. People are going to love me. Like, they're like, but I'm awesome. I'm wonderful. I can do it. Like, I'm a fun person. I know I'm a fun person. I might. But yeah, but sometimes when the numbers are so low and it's like 1 or 2 or even 0, it's just like, should I continue? Should I keep going? Is there any point? Like, it does get disheartening. It does get a bit down in the dumps. So yeah, so I'm actually quite happy I managed to get to day 6. I'm proud of myself. And I realized now that me talking about the fact that it makes me down in the dumps is not exactly the most optimistic or positive thing to be talking about, but it's realistic, it's honest. But yeah, so I'm only going to do a half-hour stream today, mainly because there's no reason, actually, just no reason. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I've been teaching all day. One of my students made me have the biggest meltdown ever. Like, I got palpitations because they've got mocks going on. And for those of you who know what mocks are, it's basically practice exams. So you sit there as if it's an actual exam. It's within your school. You sit there in the hall. You do papers that your school has decided on. And what you get in your mocks determines what you're going to do paper-wise later on for your actual exams, or you're going to do higher or foundation. And sometimes it will determine the predicted grades that they'll give you, so what they think you would be able to get in your real exams. So they had mocks. The mock started yesterday. Mock's going to be for 2 weeks. They do like exam a day, maybe sometimes it's 2 exams in 1 day. But today was English language paper 1. And the paper is 80 marks. There's 5 questions. Question 5 is worth 40 marks, so it's half of the entire paper. Question 4 is worth 20 marks, 25% of the paper. And in question 1 is 4 marks, and 2 and 3 are 8 marks each. So those 3 questions make up 25% on their own. So today I was teaching one of my private students, and I said to him, oh, how was your mocks today? How did it go? First thing he says to me is, yeah, it went all right. I was like, okay, cool. Did you manage to do all the questions? No, I left out question 4. And I said, on purpose? And he goes, yeah, I did it on purpose because I was running out of time, so I decided to do question 5. And I said, hang on, you left out a question that on its own is worth 25% of the marks. Like, I understand you wanted to do the one that was worth 50% of the marks, although to be honest, I try to get people to start with that one because there's no reading involved. It is just a writing task and you can get straight into it, especially if your time management is not the best. But he was like, yeah, I left it out and I did 1, 2, and 3 instead. And I was like, those 3 questions combined is the same number of marks as that one question that you decided to leave out. Like, if you do question 4 and question 5 alone, that's worth 75% of the marks. So I'm assuming you get like top marks on those. You basically don't need to do any other question to pass or to get like even a decent grade. Actually, you can get like up to a 6 with just those 2 questions. And he's telling me that he left it out. And he has a smile on his face. And I was like, you are lucky we had to listen through the screen because right now I am this close to blowing my top. And he didn't understand why. And when I explained to him that 4 and 5 alone makes up 75% and you could get a 6 with just those 2 questions, he kind of realized, why I was having such a conniption. But yeah, it frustrated me because no matter how many times I tell people to make sure you only spend a mark a minute, things will happen in the exam. I understand that. You obviously don't plan to spend 15 or 20 minutes on question 2, but it happens sometimes and you're like, crap, I spent so much time on there. But the fact that I always tell everyone start with question 5, like, because there's no actual, like, for the other questions, it's basically comprehension. You read and you answer questions on what you've read. For question 5, you don't need that. You can read the extract, it will give you ideas, but for paper 1, you don't need to. You can go straight into it. For paper 2, it is useful to read the 2 extracts. They will give you an idea of what you can do for question 5. And reading the 2 extracts in theory should be like 10 minutes. Not going to take too long. And that's kind of factored into the time you should spend on your exams. But like leaving out question 4, like not even doing it, not even attempting it, completely leaving it out with a smile. That's the bit that got me. It was the smile. The fact that he just did not see the problem. So so today was me just, so even now thinking about it is like, calm down, breathe, stop. Because it's too late, it's already done. So I said to him, okay, cool, let's revise for your English language paper 2. He's got that at the end of the week. He's like, okay, great. So I said, if you're sitting there in the exam, what order would you do the questions in, knowing that I just yelled at you now for not doing like question 5 first? He goes, oh, I'll do question 1 first. I was like, you want to start with the one that's 4 marks out of the entire, like, that's fine if you're the sort of person who's good with timings. Not everyone is good with timing themselves and being strict on themselves and only spending a certain number of minutes on the question. He's not the sort of person to spend only 4 minutes on the question. He's the sort of person that dawdles. And we do not need dawdlers. No, dawdlers are not needed or wanted. But yeah, so I said to him, start with question 5. So even for anyone doing it, start with question 5, then do it in 1, 3, 4, 2. Do it in that order. 1, because again, it's a 4 marker, you theoretically should be able to get it down quickly. It's just picking out 4 statements out of the 8, true or false, which you have 8 statements, which ones are true, fill in the box, don't tick, do not tick. You won't get the marks if you tick, you need to fill it in. I don't know why I keep doing this, but yeah, so that way. Then you do 3 because you only need to read 1 source for free, which will make it easier because it's basically just doing language features. So you need to only do number 3. Then next one you do is number 4 because that's worth 16 marks. And then finally number 2 because that's only worth 8 marks. So yeah, so that's the order you should do it in. 5, 1, 4. No, so 5, 1, 3, 4, 2. 5, 1, 3, 4, 2. That's the order for language paper 2. And if you're wondering when you should be reading the extracts, you read the extracts at the very beginning. First 10, 15 minutes you spend, read the extract all the way, both extracts, read them all the way through, do question 5, and then come back. And by that point, again, you would have read the extract, so they'll be quite familiar within your head. And that will save you time. But yeah, so that was today's big kerfuffle with me. And if you're wondering why I keep looking at someone open my door, it's on a latch, so they kind of came in and then left again. And I have no idea who it is. Could be my siblings, could be my parents. Questions. But yeah. Oh, and yesterday I thought I finally figured out how to use the OBS studio. And I was streaming my game of Zeus. Although there were a few hiccups and I realized that it wasn't as big as I wanted it to be on the screen. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do it again. That was quite fun. the time went by really quickly when you're just playing a game. But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. I realized I'm gonna. At least it's in the chat, so for when people watch it later on and they think, what was the order again? It's written down. But yeah. Oh my gosh, connections. Oh, and today I went to the hospital for the first time in months. It wasn't for me, it was for my mom. She needed a scan. But like walking in, there's like loads of people outside. There's loads of people walking about inside the hospital. Half of them are wearing masks, half of them are not. And then like when you walk up to the reception, they always tell you to put a mask on, but some people are just like, and not properly. But I don't know what it is. Like I think it's because they're because the doctors and nurses aren't supposed to be wearing anything long sleeve. They will have short sleeve scrubs on. So the heating is like super, super hot. So when you get in there, it feels like you're walking into a furnace and it's like terrible. And I was like, at least like I'm okay. But like imagine if people were wearing proper like winter coats, because it is November. It's November in London. It's kind of chilly. So yeah, so that was the thing. But yeah, it was the first time I went to the hospital in ages, and like we were just looking around, proper nervous. The weirdest thing that I noticed about my hospital is right outside the main entrance is now a fruit stand. There is a massive fruit stand outside of the hospital that's selling everything. Like it's a lot more comprehensive than some of the fruit stands in the market. And we never actually, I didn't go up to see what the prices were because there was like a bit of a crowd around it. And I was just like, why is there a fruit stand? And how long has that been there for? And how long is it going to stay for? Is it going to be like a permanent fixture? Because it kind of makes sense. I remember whenever people go to visit other people in hospitals, they always take fruit. Never knew why. I don't know. It's like one of them unspoken things that everyone did. They always bought fruit. Like my parents were in hospital, my brothers, they'd always bring like grapes and melons. Well, I never. The grapes make sense because they're single. They're easy to eat. That's fine. But melons, like you're in hospital, you don't have a knife. Like, how are you going to be eating the melon? Where is the logic? There is none. But yeah, so that was one of the funniest things today. The fact that there is an actual full-fledged, like properly sourced fruit stand outside of the hospital. But yeah, okay. So what else? What else is there? Nothing actually. I very rarely leave my house, so things don't happen. Which is probably why my streams are so terrible. They're not terrible. They're bland. They're bland like they're. Ooh, we're gonna watch TV. All right, that's the other reason as well. I was gonna be watching John. I love watching John Oliver. Like he makes me laugh. But yeah, so bland. Bland is I. I is bland. But no, what else is happening? There's nothing much happening now that the election's actually over. Things have kind of calmed down. People aren't really crazy. Although I haven't been on Twitter in a few days. Apart from like I'll post a couple of things. I won't actually sit there and read. But rumor has it, Trump is still tweeting about problems. And apparently he had a falling out with Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, because Jared said, "Oh, it's time to just throw in the towel now. It's done. Like you should accept it." Whilst his sons are like, "No, he shouldn't have won. There should be a recount, full recount, manual recount. Like we should sit down and actually manually recount everything." So yeah, but I should probably go back onto the internet and find out what's happening. Other than that, like, there's nothing actually going on. Like, I've got nothing to talk about. I'm kind of a boring human being, I've realized. What else? The house mouse ventures out. I think also it's because the fact that I've scheduled my streams to be 9 p.m. every night means that I can, well, there's not really much I can actually do because we're in lockdown. That's the whole reason it was the lockdown live stream. Everyone's home, theoretically. I'm home, definitely. So I can't really do anything. But I was thinking I should probably go outside, maybe, see what the outside world is saying, but I don't want to at the same time. I don't know. House mouse is comfortable. House mouse is happy. House mouse likes house. I use it, the hairband. But yeah, what else is there today? Nothing much. Like, it was pretty. No, Romeo and Juliet. So this actually gets my go. I actually posted about it. I posted it on my Instagram. Oh, go on my Instagram. But yeah, so we were doing Romeo and Juliet today, and the extract we were doing for the question was from Act 1, Scene 2, where it's Paris talking to Lord Capulet. And Paris is saying, oh, so when am I going to marry Juliet? And Lord Capulet's like, oh, but she hasn't even reached 14 years yet. She's young, leave her alone. Give her 2 more summers. Like, anyway, it's not my choice. She has to like you. You need to woo her. And Paris goes, and he's like, oh, she's too young. She's too young to be married, is what Lord Capulet says. And Paris says, younger than her have mothers been made. And then we were just discussing it as a class. We're like, what is your perspective on this statement? And everyone was just like, that sounds like proper creep language. Like, it's really creepy. And I think it was at this point that, because obviously Romeo and Juliet is touted as a very romantic play, and they wanted to be together and their families stopped them and they could have been happy and etc. But what happened, but then when people actually read that one, they realized what I've been saying to them the whole time I've been teaching them, that it's not a romantic play. There are more sinister undertones, as well as the fact that it is a cautionary tale. So obviously during the Elizabethan era, like the time it was written, Renaissance period, Paris is technically right. People were married off at a younger age than Juliet was in the play. But it's the fact that he was so casual about it was what made everybody uncomfortable. And it annoyed me because people forget this. They forget that what is really happening in the play is happening to a 13-year-old child. And they could say, yeah, they were more mature. And yes, it is a fictional play. But then you've got to remember, you know this, but you still go around and you continue saying that Romeo and Juliet is a romantic play. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, we know she's a child, but it's romantic. It's not. She's 14. Romeo is supposed to be late teens, so between 17 and 19. They never actually clarified his age. Paris is about a decade older than her. And yes, that was the standard and that happened. But that should mean that you should, again, read the play as Shakespeare intended it to be, which is a cautionary tale of going against your parents. He didn't write it as a romance. He wrote it as a tragedy about saying, if you don't do what your parents want you to do, you're gonna end up dead. And it's a lot of people don't think that, but that's actually what it is. Because let's do the timeline. They met on Sunday. They married on Monday. He killed Tybalt on Tuesday. He was banished on Wednesday. They're both dead by Thursday. It's a 5-day. They didn't even make it to Friday and Saturday. And that's the crazy thing. People keep touting it as a romantic play. It's not. It's a tragedy. It's two children that didn't listen to their parents who ended up dead. And I think it was today with that extract that my students finally realized what I've been trying to say. Because Paris can't be blamed for the things he says. He is just a character who was being used by Shakespeare to make a point that, yes, a lot of young girls are married off very early on. And yes, Capulet was trying to be a considerate father by saying she needs to wait a couple of years before she does marry because he doesn't want her to be marred, which is the word he used, like scarred or something like that, whatever it was that he wanted her to be. But it's interesting because people again ignore that. They think of, do you know what I think the problem is? Most people very rarely read the play all the way through. They don't sit down and read Romeo and Juliet from page 1 to the end. Most of the time, people watch the movie, especially the modern adaptation with Leonardo DiCaprio and is it Kate Winslet? I don't know. No, not Kate Winslet. Somebody else. I can't. Kate Winslet was in Titanic, wasn't she? No. So anyway, the modern day adaptation with Leonardo DiCaprio, and that's what everybody watches. And because they watch the modern adaptation, and yes, the characters the actors portraying the characters are much older. So then they forget that Juliet is 13, Romeo is 17, Tybalt is like late teens, early 20s, so is Mercutio. So all the people that die, Paris is early 20s. So basically everyone who dies, the 5 kids basically who die, were all kids. And people forget this because most people watch the modern adaptation. And that's been around for the last 20 odd years. And even before that, the other adaptations of the movies and stuff were, again, portrayed by adults. So it makes it so easy to forget that this is a cautionary tale and not a romance because it's under the class of tragedy and not romantic, because the romantic wasn't actually around. It never actually had that. It was something that was classed afterwards. So yeah, so when we were actually going through it and they realized, wait, Paris sounds like a creep saying, oh, 13's old enough, I'll marry her anyway, it's fine. People were like, oh, crazy. Not crazy. I don't know why people don't think it's crazy that in Act 1, Scene 1, Romeo is head over heels of Rosaline, and then suddenly he's like, ooh, who's she? Who's Rosaline? And just moves on within a day. And then he gets married the next day to her. To Juliet. It's literally 24 hours later. And then there's their accomplices, their 2 ridiculous, stupid, asinine accomplices, Friar Lawrence and the nurse. And they're like, yes, we'll encourage it. Like, yeah, sure, your families hate each other, your children, you're too young, you don't have permission, you technically can't do it agree to something by yourself, because technically she couldn't have married, Juliet shouldn't have been able to get married because she's a child. But they allow it and they help them. The nurse is sending notes and she's all like, oh, this is cute. Sending notes. Friar Lawrence is like, I don't think you should get married. But if your parents find out, they'll be angry. So I'm going to let you get married and then we'll keep it a secret. Because remember when the Capulets were saying, and after Romeo got banished, and the Capulets were like, oh, that damn Montague boy killed our Tybalt, you're going to marry Paris so that you can be protected. Instead of Friar Lawrence saying, oh, yeah, she's technically already married to Romeo, so you can't do that. It would be bigamy and like against church and the law. He didn't tell them. He just stayed quiet so that all of this nonsense can continue. If he'd actually stepped up and said, this is what happened, like they'll be angry, but there's nothing they can do about it because they're already married. And back then, divorce was the hardest thing you could do. Basically, if you wanted to get a divorce in like Renaissance period, you'd have to be Protestant first. And then you'd have to get Parliament to agree to it, which was basically them never agreeing to it. But they were Catholic in the play, so there's no such thing as divorce. So if Friar Lawrence had just opened his mouth and told everybody, yeah, Juliet's already married, so you can just forget about her marrying Paris, she wouldn't have had to go to extreme measures of drinking whatever it is he gave her to drink to fake her own death. Then they wouldn't have had to send that letter that never got to him and was actually sent, and then he got the message that she was dead from somebody else, and he came and he killed. The nonsense, basically the nonsense. The other thing I found really funny about the play is the fact that on his way to Juliet's tomb, in his grief, he still had time to stop and have a sword fight with Paris and kill him. He's like, yeah, I'm sad, I'm going to kill this guy first and then go in. Like, the play vexes me. Like, Romeo and Juliet vexes me. It makes my blood boil because it's not discussed and talked about the way it should be. Like, people should not romanticize it. People should not look up to it. People should not think that it's something great. Like, so many times I hear a song lyric saying, we're Romeo and Juliet. And I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that they're two people who cannot be together due to whatever extenuating circumstances. You'd be better saying you're Tristan and Isolde, or even saying you're, Paris and Helen. Although, again, those other stories have some horrendous endings too. We're not even going to get into that. But at least they are adults who weren't together for whatever reasons. Oh, actually, no, Helen of Troy committed adultery with Paris. So that might be a bad example. Tristan and Isolde? Yeah, maybe them. They're not so bad. Rumour has it that Romeo and Juliet is actually based on Tristan and Isolde. To an extent, not fully. But yeah, so the fact that it's considered a romance, and I think today I kind of maybe ruined it a little bit for my students when I kind of highlighted that it's more of a tragedy and it's crazy and it makes no sense and it's ridiculous. So yeah, so that was my thing today. Like, Romeo and Juliet was the main thing we went through today, and it just it creeped me out again, that line where Paris is like, oh, 13's old enough. Like, I get context, I understand that, but it's still such a disturbing part of the play that people just kind of brush over. But yeah, that's my 2 cents in of Romeo and Juliet. But yeah, a lot of people that know me know that I despise the play. I have to teach it. It's part of the curriculum that we are doing at the school. Although I do much prefer when I get to teach Macbeth, which again has its own problem. Like, Macbeth has got its own issues. But again, no one's ever tried to say, oh, Macbeth is a romantic. Oh, look at all the things Macbeth does for Lady Macbeth. He even kills a king for her. No one's ever said that. Well, technically it's true, but no one's ever said that. But yes, so Romeo and Juliet is a cautionary tale and not a romance. And people really need to stop touting it as a romance to others and use better examples of romance if they want to say to star-crossed lovers. That's the other thing, yeah, the fact that they're called star-crossed lovers makes it seem romantic, I guess, because they're like, oh, it was written in the heavens that they weren't to be together. Maybe there's a reason that it was written in the heavens for them not to be together. Yeah. But anywho, I've realized that today's live stream, or albeit that I said I was going to do half an hour, I am going to do half an hour. I'm actually going to end soon. But most of the live stream was me just complaining about my students not being able to realize that question 4 on language paper 1 is a vital question to do. Please never leave out question 4. For those of you who have not done your mocks yet, please do not leave out question 4 on language paper 1. It is vital. And the fact that I don't want people to tell like the next generation that Romeo and Juliet is a romance. It is a tragedy and a cautionary tale. Yes, remember? Tragedy and a cautionary tale. We do not need 13-year-olds running away and marrying 18-year-olds and then committing suicide within a 5-day period. Okay? Wonderful. All right, yeah, I've got to stop doing these rants, but yes. Thank you for coming to my rant, my daily live stream. Like I said, day 6, I'm kind of proud of myself that I managed to get to day 6. And inshallah, I'll keep doing it. I'm going to get to day 28 or until this lockdown ends. They've said it's going to be for 4 weeks. So yeah, I'm going to try to do the whole 28 days. But yeah, join me again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. GMT anyway. If you're in a different time zone, you will have to do the math yourself because I am far too lazy. Bye.